Quality, comfort, and grip at an affordable price. Whether it's our standard, pro, or elite socks, there's an option for everyone. Try a pair for yourself now at puregripsocks.com.
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6.
The Nike Phantom 6 is here, and it looks like a football boot. Where of course everyone's gonna have their own opinion on the way these look, and I'd be curious to hear everyone's first impressions down in the comment section. I will say for myself, I'm not in love with the design, but I also don't hate it. I think this is infinitely better looking than the GX2 and Luna 2 for me personally. That at launch, especially in that colorway, was just not a very appealing football boot, at least to me. This has more of that unique look to it that I guess in fairness to Nike, if you look through their vast catalog of footwear that they've released throughout the history of the brand, some of their most polarizing designs from when they first launched ended up being the most memorable as time went on. I'm not sure that's going to be the case with these, but I don't hate the design. I just don't think it's the greatest launch colorway. Looks aside, the Phantom 6 is the official replacement for the low-cut GX2 and the mid-cut Luna 2, where I think Nike was really trying with that previous generation Phantom to start this whole mercurial vapor superfly thing. Obviously, that never really caught on, mainly because the original Luna was just not well received to begin with, but they're not doing that anymore. There is just one Phantom 6 that you can get as a Phantom 6 low and a Phantom 6 high. Simple, easy to understand. From a naming structure perspective, this just makes sense. With this initial launch colorway, as we've seen from Nike so many times in the past, only being released in elite top-end form. Yes, there will be takedown models, a pro, an academy, and likely a club, probably in both mid-cut and low-cut form, will be coming down the line, but that's not until we get the first general release colorway, which is probably going to happen in the next 2 or 3 weeks if I had to guess. Also, as we've seen from Nike in the past, when it comes to launch colorways of a brand new model, the price tags likely reflect the limited quantities of this particular drop, where the low-cut Elite Phantom 6 bears a retail price of $290 and the high-cut Phantom 6 Elite bears a retail price of $305. That's $30 more than the GX2 Elite and $20 more than the Luna 2 Elite, the two models that these are directly replacing. I would expect, or at the very least hope, that the retail prices for the general release variations will drop back down to $260 and $285 respectively, but only time will tell if that's actually the case. But those are just the FG models, because something else that we haven't really seen from Nike when it comes to launching a brand new pair, especially in the limited drop launch colorway, is they're going to be available with the AG Pro stud pattern as well, or for whatever reason, the Phantom 6 Elite Low in AG Pro retails for $10 less at $280, and the Phantom 6 High Elite retails for the same $305 as the FG model. Again, what will pricing look like when we get a general release colorway? I'm not entirely sure, and I really don't think anybody knows at this point. As far as getting a pair, they'll be available at all Nike authorized retailers as of June 12th and likely available from Nike directly a couple days earlier, but until then, we can only speculate on what this new Nike Phantom 6 is all about. So with that in mind, I thought I'd share some of my own initial impressions and observations. Where of course, I'm working on getting a pair of both the lows and highs as soon as I possibly can, hopefully before the 12th, and when I do, of course, expect to see my review pop up on this channel. If you don't want to miss out on that, including reviews of the takedown models as well, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you don't miss out on my reviews of all the latest football boots of 2025. As for the overall design of the Phantom 6, it's kind of an amalgamation of what people really liked about the GX1, what some people really liked about the GX2 and what nobody really liked about the original Phantom Luna. That also made its way onto the GX2 and people were really unhappy about it, so it makes perfect sense to include it on the Phantom 6. Speaking of which, I like the simplicity of the name Phantom 6, and J Mike from Unisport, shout out to him, he has some inside knowledge and explains how Nike came to the Phantom 6 name itself, but as a whole, I just think it's a little bit confusing given that there have been more than 6 Phantoms. But that's besides the point. With the core design of the upper looking to be heavily inspired by the original Phantom GX, the lows having that kind of grip knit hood over the bottom part of the lacing system, with the majority of the laces themselves left completely exposed, giving you that one-piece Flyknit enclosure, while the mid-cut variation brings back the lace cover that we originally saw on the Phantom Vision. It made its way onto the Phantom Vision 2. We kind of had a bit of a lace cover with the Phantom Venom, but that was a completely different direction altogether. But last we saw a lace cover like this, it was again on the mid-cut or high-cut variation of the original GX1. The difference this time around is that it looks like they've actually utilized some of that surface area across the top of the upper to give you actual grip knit in an area where there otherwise wouldn't be, with the elasticated part kind of looping around it to still allow that stretch that you need to get the boots on and take them off, and of course have access to the lacing system underneath. So do keep that in mind. The mid-cut variation is not a laceless football boot, it simply has a lace cover. As for how those laces are connected to the upper, again, I can only assume it's something very similar to that mid-cut GX1, but otherwise there aren't many details from Nike. There's no pictures of the inside that I've seen so far, and until I have them in my hands, it's really difficult to say. Nonetheless, I wouldn't expect there to be a huge difference in fit or shaping between the lows or the highs. Although, shout out J Mike from Unisport again, I'm sure you guys have seen their review. He got some sample pairs to actually try out, which he also specified aren't necessarily exactly the same as the retail variation, so it's really difficult to pass judgment. But according to Jay, they have actually changed the shaping of the Nike Phantom series, which is different from GX1 and GX2. Of course, it's really difficult for me to judge the shape, the fit, the feel of the boots on feet until I've actually tried them myself. So of course that will happen when I actually get the boots in for review, but it is really interesting, and I would say good news that they've made some changes to the shaping, because in general, I was never in love with GX1, GX2, Luna 1, or Luna 2 as far as shape is concerned. As for the upper, unsurprisingly, it's still grip knit, but now has a little bit of ridge texturing that kind of relates to the texture that was featured on the GX2 and Luna 2, but in all honesty, do I expect this to make for any major difference as far as touch on the ball is concerned? Probably not. If anything, my expectation here is that both the lows and the mids are going to feel a lot like the original GX, which is not necessarily a bad thing. The main distinction between the two being that you're probably going to have a little bit of additional grip because of that lace cover design across the top of the foot on the highs versus no extra grip across the top of the foot on the lows. Although there could potentially be some variation in regards to feel on feet based on the shape of the boot and based on what they've done with the liner, if they've decided to go and change anything. Moving towards the rear of the boot, you still have that option of low or mid, or I suppose what they're now calling high. Something that maybe a lot of people didn't notice is that the heel is black on the lows and silver on the highs, which I think is pretty cool. I think it's actually a good thing. If there's a visual distinction beyond just the collar between the lows and the highs, it's still an extra 25 bucks if you want that little bit of extra Flyknit wrapping around the bottom of your ankle, which I think is a huge miss from Nike, given that we don't see that premium being charged from any other brand when it comes to their mid-cut offerings. But I suppose Nike more or less kind of invented or at least popularized this idea, so it's not too surprising that they're still sticking with that price tag premium. Flip the boots over and you'll see the new sole plate and stud pattern tooling, where for the FG variation, you see that very distinctive Cyclone 360 5-bladed circular stud setup, originally introduced on the Phantom Luna to prioritize rotational movement, where if you've ever tried any variation of this stud pattern, you know that it does exactly the opposite. It's all blades facing in all directions, therefore it digs in, bites the ground, and doesn't really allow for all that much movement as far as twisting and pivoting is concerned. It feels very aggressive and very speed boot-esque, but if you're expecting to be able to just twist and pivot super easily on natural grass, you might be a little bit disappointed. The rest of the stud pattern is pretty straightforward. It's made up mostly of conical studs. 2 of the ones under the heel are blades, and in general, again, is kind of just that GX1 stud pattern, but with a little bit of original Luna inspiration. Where from a traction perspective, I really don't expect this to feel that different from the outgoing GX2 and Luna 2, and as far as the sole plate is concerned, I can only assume it's going to feel pretty similar, but again, until I actually get to try the boots, it's really difficult to say. There doesn't look to be anything crazy happening as far as sole plate tech is concerned though. And then if we look at the AG Pro variation, it too sees brand new sole plate and stud pattern tooling for the Phantom 6, and in all honesty, it just looks really good. Nothing too different from what we've seen in the past from Nike AG Pro stud patterns, but honestly, you don't really need that for an artificial grass specific traction pattern. It's pretty much all conical studs with that hollowed out core like we've seen from Nike so many times before. And for use on artificial grass, this looks fantastic. And that just leaves us with the weight of the Phantom 6, where until I have the boots myself and can put them on the same scale as I do every other football boot, it's really difficult to say. I'm assuming that the new sole plate tooling will have an impact on the weight, either good or bad, I'm not entirely sure. Nonetheless though, I wouldn't expect any major differences from the Phantom models they replace. But there you have it. That is pretty much everything there is to know about the new Nike Phantom 6, at least at this point, until we get to try them for ourselves. I wouldn't say that Nike have done anything groundbreaking with this release. The shock value is mostly based on the way that they look and just the general design of the football boot, but from a feature standpoint, it really is just an amalgamation of recycled pieces from past Phantom models, which is both a good or bad thing, but I guess when it comes to Nike specifically, we expect them to always do something different, and I'm not sure they've done anything up to their usual standards of kind of wow factor compared to what we've seen from them in the past. But those are just my initial impressions. I'm still excited to give these a go. Stay tuned to the channel for my official review, and of course, leave your own first impressions of the Phantom 6 down in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.